Alright, so right now I'm doing my special test video for the hip. We're going to start with the piriformis test. And the piriformis test is used to assess tightness of the piriformis muscle. A positive result is pain in the piriformis muscle. And this, we have the patient lying on their side. We just put our stabilizing hand on the ilium and the test hand on the lateral knee. We just push down. Positive result is pain in the piriformis muscle. Turn around so we can do it bilaterally. We'll just do the same thing on the opposite side. Extend this leg. Just push down. And that's the piriformis test. So now I'm performing the Trendelenburg gait. Trendelenburg test is used to assess gluteus medius weakness and gluteal tendon pathology. A positive result is the non-weight bearing hip drops. So go ahead and do it for me. And do it on the other side for me. Do it bilaterally. I don't really see any drop in there, so she has a pretty strong gluteus medius muscle. Alright, now I'll be performing the Thomas test. This is used to assess hip flexor tightness. A positive result is the extended hip does not remain extended on the table but goes into some flexion. This can indicate lumbar lordosis or abduction of the lateral rotation of the leg, can indicate tightness of the IT band. So go ahead and bring one of your hip. Is that as far as you can go? Alright. Do it bilaterally for me. And that's basically the Thomas test. Now I'm going to have my patient performing the Kendall test. This is used to assess rectus femoris and hip flexor tightness. A positive result is that the knee flexion is less than 90 degrees of flexion. That indicates a tight rectus femoris, or thigh is not parallel to the tabletop, and that's a tight hip flexion. So go ahead and perform the Kendall test for me. Alright, and do it bilaterally. And that's the Kendall test. So now I'm performing Uber's test. This is used to assess tightness of the tensor fossa latae and the IT band tightness. A positive result is the pelvis moves before the top thigh is adducted, or the top thigh remains in the adducted position. I have my patient sideline. I have the bottom knee and hip flex for stability. I'm going to take this top leg and I'm going to extend it and put it in the abduction. And then I'm going to passively adduct it, looking for IT band tightness and tensor fossa latae tightness. Passively adduct it. Alright, flip over so we can do it bilaterally. Now I'm doing it bilaterally. Extend it, the hip. I'm going to passively adduct the leg. This leg seems like it has a little bit more tightness than the other leg. Alright, now I'm performing Patrick's test. I have my patient lying supine with the leg crossed. This is used to assess hip joint pathology, and the positive result is the thigh remains elevated. It cannot be lowered to parallel with the opposite thigh. So I have the leg crossed, stabilize here. I'm going to push down here. I can tell she has some tightness right in there. Not going to be too rough. Alright, turn around so I can do it bilaterally. Across this leg over. My hand there. And I can tell she has tightness in this one too. So she has some hip joint pathology there. Now we're performing Gainsland's test. This is used to assess sarcoiliac pathology. A positive result is pain in the sarcoiliac region. I have my patient lying on their side. Take this knee up for me. Take it at the hold for both hands. And all I'm going to do is passively extend the top hip. So I'm just passively extending this top hip. looking for sarcoiliac pathology. Alright, flip around so we can do it on the other. Facing that way.
This way?
Turn around. Face that way. Pick this leg up. Hold it. And I'm just going to passively extend this top hip. And I can tell she has some tightness in there. Alright, so now I'll be performing the sacral apex compression test. This is used to assess sacroiliac dysfunction. A positive result is in this pain in the sarcoiliac joints. I have my patient lying prone. All I'm going to do is get over the sacroiliac apex. I'm going to push down. And that's the the sacral apex compression test. Alright, so now we're performing the sacroiliac compression test. This is used to assess integrity of the anterior sacroiliac ligaments. A positive result is patient reports posterior gluteal leg pain. I have my patient lying supine. Now I'm going to put my hands on their anterior, on their ASIS. I'm going to cross my hands. So I got it like this. Probably can't really see that too good. But all I'm going to do is push down. And that's the sacral iliac compression test. Alright, so now we're performing the sacral iliac distraction test. This is used to assess anterior to posterior sacroiliac ligaments. A positive result is pain in the sarcoiliac joints. I have my patient lying on their side. All I'm going to do is put my hands over the iliac crest. I'm going to push down. Turn around so we can do it bilaterally. Still doing and this is the sacroiliac distraction test I'm doing right now. Going to push down. Alright, now I'm performing the posterior distraction test. This is used to assess integrity of the posterior sarcoiliac ligaments. Positive result is palpation reveals greater laxity or movement on the uninvolved side than on the involved side than on the uninvolved side. So I have my patient lying prone, and I'm just going to hold at the ankle and stabilize the pelvis. I'm just going to move the leg out. Turn around for me so we can do it now. Same thing on this side. Stabilizing the pelvis. And that's the posterior distraction test. So now we're doing the flexion, adduction, and internal rotation test, also known as the Fader test. This is used to assess labral pathology. A positive result is reproduction of pain in the anterior groin. So I'm going to flex the hip, adduct it, and internally rotate it. Turn around so I can get it all out. So I'm going to flex the hip, adduct it, and internally rotate it. And that's the flexion, adduction, and internal rotation test. Yeah. Okay, so now we're performing the hip scouring test. This is used to assess labral pathology. A positive result is pain and apprehension. And here we go. Going between adducting and abducting. Turn around so we can do it bilaterally. And that's the hip scouring test. So now I'm performing the stress fracture test. This is used to assess presence of femoral stress fracture. A positive result is pain. I have my patient sitting at the end of the table. I'm my hand under here. All I'm gonna do is press down, all right? Do it bilaterally. Have my hand here, press down, and that's the stress fracture test. All right, so now we're performing the lumbar quadrant test. This is used to assess lumbar pathology, referring to hip and lower extremity. Positive result is reproduction of pain into hip or lower extremity. And all I'm going to be doing is placing my patient into lumbar extension. So, place my patient into lumbar extension. All right, go on the other side and do it bilaterally. And just placing my patient into lumbar extension. I'm applying some overpressure. And that's the lumbar quadrant test. Alright, so now we're performing the femoral nerve traction test. This is used to assess femoral nerve pathology emanating from L2 and L4. A positive result is complaints of pain, numbness, or tingling in the groin and hip that relates to anterior thigh. I have my patient lying on their side, stabilize them, and all I'm going to do is I'm extending the hip. I'm extending the hip while flexing the knee. All right, turn around so I can do it bilaterally. And once again, I'm extending the hip and I'm flexing the knee. And that's the femoral nerve traction test. Alright, so now I'm performing the patellopubic percussion test. This is used to assess presence of femoral stress fracture. Positive result is sound on the sound is more diminished on the involved side than on the uninvolved side. I'm going to have my patient hold the stethoscope over that pubic symphysis. Go ahead and hold it there. All I'm going to do is tap on their knee and I'm listening for sounds. Alright, so now I'm going to do it bilaterally. Move it over here, pubic symphysis. Put the stethoscope over your pubic symphysis. And I'm going to do the opposite knee. I don't really hear any diminished sound, so that's not a positive result. Alright, so now I'm performing Craig's test. This is used to assess hip anteversion, retroversion. A positive result is greater than 15 degrees anteversion, less than 8 degrees retroversion in adults. Right now I don't have a goniometer, but I'm still going to do the motions. So I'm going to put my hand over the greater trochanter, and I'm going to put my hand over the greater trochanter, and I'm just going to move the foot out. Move her out to about 10 to 13 degrees. And then I would measure, turn around so we can do it bilateral. I'll play her with greater trochanter. I'll move her out. I'll play her with greater trochanter and move her out about 10 to 13 degrees. Then I would measure with a goniometer if I have one.